Okay, Wildcats, today we're looking at Wednesday, October 24th, matrix operations on page 24. If you would, update your table of contents. All right, now your table of contents are updated. Let's take a look at the notes. All right, matrix operations on page 24. Now, I'm using two colors, blue and green. You don't have to use blue and green, but I recommend using two colors. Let A equal the matrix with A, B, C, and D, and let B be the matrix with E, F, G, H. When adding or subtracting matrices, they must have the same dimensions. So since A has 2 rows and 2 columns, and B has 2 rows and 2 columns, they have the same dimensions, we can add. So basically what you do is add positions. So A and E are in the same position, so you add them. C and G are in the same position, so you add them. B and F are in the same position, so you add them. D and H are in the same position, so you add them. And the same goes with if you're subtracting. So if you would, update that part of your notes. All right, now let's look at this. You can multiply two matrices if and only if the number of columns in the first matrix equals the number of rows in the second matrix. So since the number of columns in the first matrix and the number of rows in the second matrix, they're the same, you can multiply them, and it's going to be, the result's going to be a 2 by 2 matrix. So when we multiply A times B, we multiply A times E plus B times G, and then A times F plus B times H, and so on. All right, so if you would, update your notes. I know that seems somewhat confusing, but as we work through the actual matrices, you can use these to help you understand where to go. All right, now your notes are updated. Let's take a look at the examples, which again will be on page 24. All right, so let's add A and B. And just like the video, let's make matrix A blue, and let's make matrix B green. Okay, so when we add A and B, that would be -1 plus 0 4 plus 5 3. Now it's plus a -6, so it's actually -6. And then 0 plus 3. Which equals -1 plus 0 is -1. 4 plus 5 is 9. 3 minus 6 is -3. And 0 plus 3 is 3. All right, now let's do A minus B. So that's going to be -1 minus 0 4 minus 5 3. Now that's minus a -6, so that's plus 6. And then 0 minus 3. All right, so negative 1 minus 0 is negative 1. 4 minus 5 is negative 1. 3 plus 6 is 9. And 0 minus 3 is negative 3. So I did some light adjustments here so you can see the colors a little bit better. And let me adjust. All right, now let's take a look at example 3. All right, so example 3. So now we're multiplying by negative 1/2. So that's negative 1/2 times a, which equals negative 1/2 times 1, negative 3, negative 2, 4. So basically when you do that, you basically multiply everything by negative 1/2. So negative 1/2 times 1 is negative 1/2. Negative 1/2 times negative 3 is a positive 3/2. Negative 1/2 times negative 2 is a positive 1. And negative 1/2 times 4 is a negative 2. All right, now finish that up and let's look at example 4. Whoa, what happened? That was crazy. There we go, sorry about that. It's like the light bulb came on or something. All right, so example 4. Now we're going to multiply a times b. And again, we're going to color code them. So a, we're going to be blue, and b, we're going to be green. Okay? So the first things first is we need to see if we can actually multiply it. So a is a 1 row by 2 columns, and b is 2 rows by 2 columns. Now the first thing you check is if these are the same. They are. So the end result will be a 1 by 2. So I know when I multiply, I'm going to have 1 row and 2 columns. So this is going to be 0 times 2 plus negative 1 times negative 3. And then I'm going to have 0 times negative 5 plus negative 1 times 4. So that equals, well, 0 times 2 is 0. Negative 1 times negative 3 is plus 3. So 0 plus 3 is 3. And then that's 0 plus negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. All right, now let's take a look at example 5. Now the first thing, now we're doing b times a. So b is a 2 by 2. and A is a 1 by 2. First thing you do is check to see if these match. They do not, so you multiplying B times A is not possible. All right, let's take a look at example 6. All right, so we're going to multiply A times B, and again, A we're going to do in blue, and B you're going to do in green. We're going to do in green. So the first thing we do to see if we can multiply A times B is look at the dimensions. So that's A is a 3 by 1, and B is a 2 by 3. Well, these do not match, so multiplying A times B is not possible. All right, so let's now look at B times A. So B is a 2 by 3, and A is a 3 by 1. So the first thing we check to see if these match, they do. So the end result is going to be a 2 by 1 matrix. So it's going to have 2 rows, 1 column. So now we multiply. Now I'm actually going to rewrite these because if you're multiplying B times A, I want this in front. So I'm going to write B equals 4, 2, negative 3, 0, 1, negative 2. And A is negative 2, 5, 1. So keeping with that, B is green, A is blue. Now the best way to understand when you multiply is you multiply the row by the column. So we're going to multiply this row by that column, this row by that column. Okay, so we have 4 times negative 2. Now it's plus, but technically we're multiplying by negative 3, so that's going to be minus 3 times 5 plus 1 times 1. Okay, now we're going to multiply this row by that column. So 2 times negative 2 plus 0 times 5 plus, it's plus, but we're multiplying by negative 2, so it's minus 2 times 1. Okay, so this equals 4 times negative 2 is negative 8, minus 15 plus 1 is a negative 22, and then 2 times negative 2 plus 0 minus 2 is a negative 6. All right, so finish up example 6 and 7. All right, now let's look at example A and B. So the first thing you do is look at dimensions. So A is a 3 by 2, and B is a 3 by 3. You check to see if these dimensions are the same. They're not, so multiplying A times B is not possible. Oh, got a little blurry there. All right, now let's take a look at b times 8. So again, we look at dimensions. So the dimensions are b is a 3 by 3, and a is a 3 by 2. The middle dimensions match. So we knew our new matrix is going to have 3 rows, 2 columns. So 3 rows, 2 columns. All right, and I want to rewrite it. So B's first, then A. So B equals 5, 0, 2, 7, 5, negative 4, 6, negative 4, 3. And A equals 8, negative 4, negative 5, 2, negative 4, 9. Remember, B is green and A is blue. And remember, when we do this, we multiply the row by the column. Now, another way to understand this is that 5, 7, 6 are going to be here and here. And I'll show you that in a sec. So that's 8. So 5 times 8, and then plus 7 times negative 4 plus 6 times negative 5. All right, I need to adjust my matrix length. Apparently this is going to be longer. And then we'll erase here. And then this might have to expand longer. It's about 1.5, so all right, so now we multiply this row by that column. So these numbers are going to be 0, 5, negative 4. And since you're multiplying this row by that column, these numbers are going to be 8, negative 4, negative 5. Again, you're going to multiply this row by that column, so these numbers, so 2, negative 4, 3, times this row again. And I'm doing it a little different so you can see what's happening. So these numbers stay the same here. And then since you have to multiply this row by that column, these numbers stay the same. So 5, 7, 6. But now we're multiplying it by this row. So 2, negative 4, and 9. So you know that this would be 502, this would be 7, 5, negative 4, negative 4, 3, and then these numbers, okay, because and the reason why it looks like this is because you're multiplying this row by that column, this row by that column, this row by that column, and then you're going to multiply this row by that column, this row by that column, this row by that column. All right? And I think I might have enough room to write this. So this, when you add it and combine, becomes negative 18, 0, 17, 36, negative 56, and 47. And you can use a calculator if you want to go back and check those numbers, but this is negative 18, this is 0, 17, 36, and negative 56, 47. All right, so at this point, if you understood all the examples and start working on the assignment, if you had some trouble with the examples, know that you can come into the teacher-led group, and I'm going to go back over these examples again in class. So with that, have a wonderful Wildcat